Chill. Ha. What's going
Joshua.
on, man? Leader of the Breath Army, Jeff Sorensen? Is that how you say it?
Sorensen, yep.
Sorensen,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah. How are you today, brother?
Doing very well, thank you. How about yourself?
Wonderful, man. I'm actually really, really excited for this conversation. I've been
Likewise.
following
Yeah.
your work, man, and I love what you're doing. And although I don't have any time on my schedule yet to like, I haven't been able to join any of your workshops. I keep pushing people that way because I know it's important.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that for
Yeah, of
sure.
course,
It's
man.
yeah, be pretty
So
life changing.
yes, definitely. So I'm curious, what exactly, for those people who don't know, what is the Breath Army, my friend?
Breath Army is all about empowerment, inspiration, transformation, and just inspiring people to live to their true potential. And I think that probably resonates with you. It's
Yes.
we're on a similar path in that way. So Breath Army, I combine different modalities and breath work being the primary one, but different forms of movement as well: yoga, ecstatic dance, calisthenics, primal movement, all those fun things,
It's everything on a
meditation,
daily basis. Yes.
and stressors,
Yeah.
hot and cold and fasting and nature rewilding, just all the things that we can use to help people break through the structures and the patterns that hold them back from living that true potential and shining it out into the world.
Yeah, man, that's a freaking beautiful message, and I appreciate what you're doing. So like I know I've seen on your page you doing live in person breathwork classes and people doing cold therapy tubs next to like banks of water and the most beautiful scenery ever. And I'm curious, like what is this amazing thing you got going on?
Well, well, it's kind of a funny thing, like people will often say, "Oh, yeah, you seem to be like you're doing really well right now," or this is kind of a new thing, but it started almost 15 years ago,
Yeah,
right? And just
nice.
I've been kind of plugging away at it since then, but recently over the last few years have really focused in on breath work. And so, yeah, I do in-person workshops and do Wim Hof method workshops and amongst many other things, and have trained in all the different modalities: oxygen advantage, buteyko breathing, Naya integrative breathwork, classical pranayama, kundalini
Ooh,
breathwork, and
will you tell me about those different things? Because I
for sure.
those are new to me. So I'd love to learn about just
Oh
what
yeah,
those are. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think what I really saw when I entered into breathwork is, I'd been involved in yoga for a long time, and pranayama is a
Hmm.
traditional yogic breathing practice.
Okay.
And
Does it have any similarities to Ashtanga? Because I know in Ashtanga, that's the only experience that I have with yoga so far, and I know that it's connected directly to the breath with every movement. Is that similar?
yeah, so that was my first exposure to
Yeah.
breath work. And
Oop, lost you there.
different practices for uh,
Sorry, man. It that cut out for a second. I missed you at I think it was right after I said, what did I say? Sorry, I was focusing on a couple different things.
talking pranayama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pranayama, and I said my experience was with Ashtanga, and then you were said the last thing I heard you say was that was your first exposure. I apologize.
yeah, yeah. So my experience with breath work really started with yoga, and bringing more awareness to my breathing, and more so to my dysfunction
Yes.
within my breath.
Yeah.
And so I played with that for years and started teaching yoga quite early on.
Okay. Cool.
And along with yoga, the movement practice, came meditation and pranayama, so the traditional breathing practices. And I played with those for a few years, and it was about 7 years ago that I really got deeper into pranayama and really started to understand the power of the breath
Yes.
and really integrated that into my practice. And then a few years ago, got exposed to the Wim Hof method. So combining breath work with cold exposure,
Mm-hmm.
mindset training. And right around that time, I had moved back to Canada, and I'd been back in Canada for a few years, and I hadn't been teaching yoga, and I was just kind of standing back and just trying to figure out what my path was, what was my thing to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, just really felt just through my own experience like breath work was a really untapped part
Yeah.
of yoga. And
It's an
not only
untapped part
yoga,
of
but just
humanity.
totally.
Yeah.
And just through my own experience had seen how much dysfunction I had in my own breathing,
Mm-hmm.
and through beginning to heal that, how
How'd you
enormous
begin
an
to
impact
notice
it
that
had in my
dysfunction, if I
life.
may ask? Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, what was the question?
How did you begin to notice the dysfunction that you had with your breathing?
Well, the first the first layer of that, I had kind of packed up and moved to Mexico. I was living in Mazatlan,
Oh, nice.
and when I arrived in Mazatlan was when I started to pick up yoga and started going to yoga classes on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been going for about a year, but I didn't actually speak Spanish at that point. So I was kind of going into these yoga classes blind
Yeah.
and just trying to pick up what I could. And I couldn't really figure out what they were talking about with the breathing. Like something just wasn't clicking for me,
Okay.
and then it was actually about a year, and I was on my way home one night after yoga class, kind of driving along what they call the Malecone, along the ocean side of my truck, and cruising home on this beautiful warm evening, and all of a sudden it just dawned on me that I was breathing backwards at that time. So that's something that's called paradoxical breathing.
Paradoxical
And it
breathing?
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
not actually that uncommon. It's pretty common in people that have experienced severe trauma.
Interesting.
And
So what
yeah,
exactly is the backwards breathing?
so usually when we breathe, the the correct way to breathe would be to have our diaphragm would push down towards our hips, and then that would create expansion in our belly and kind of in our pelvic floor,
Right.
and then the breath would come up into the chest. But in paradoxical breathing, the breath is coming up into the chest and the diaphragm is actually moving backwards.
Interesting.
So so you can't really get a full breath. And with the diaphragm being such an important muscle, if we look at the Latin roots of that word, it comes from the word phren, which means second mind or seat of contemplation.
Okay.
And so
That's good to know.
when that muscle is screwed up, there's dysfunction in the body,
Huh.
and
Interesting. I
that's what I
heard
was experiencing.
Certified Health Nut talking about that in his journey to breath work. And do you know who Certified Health Nut is? Troy
Oh
Casey.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
I had him on the show the other day, and I was talking to him, and he said the same exact thing, that he was. I guess he didn't say breathing backwards, but he was relating it to the fact that he had been a model for many years, and so he was taught to constantly have his gut sucked in, and when you have your gut
Right.
sucked in, you're not belly breathing, and you're doing that backwards breathing. You have to learn how to breathe with your belly. Would belly breathing be a different word for proper breathing, or what you're referring to?
Belly breathing is actually a word that I really try and steer clear from,
Okay, that's
because
fair.
I feel like it gives people a false idea of what we're looking for.
Okay.
And while we do want to see some expansion through the belly as we breathe,
Mm-hmm.
what happens a lot, and what I saw a lot in yoga, was people will use this term belly breathing, but then people focus exclusively on the belly and pushing the belly out,
Right.
and that just causes more dysfunction in between the abdominal muscles and the diaphragm. So it's not working properly. Still, it's better
Yeah.
than breathing into the chest first, but it's still not functional breathing.
So how do you make
So
sure you're doing functional breathing?
functional breathing we get by breathing horizontally, so pushing the lower rows of ribs out
Hmm.
towards the sides. When we
Okay.
do that, we know that we're creating that intra-abdominal pressure, and we know that our diaphragm's working
Right, and because you're
properly.
pushing your ribs out, your belly is also coming up, but you're not just directly just sticking your belly out as you're breathing in.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
side effect of doing the proper form.
Right. So then by bringing those lower ribs out, the breath starts down in the belly. It doesn't start in the belly, but the sensation of expansion starts in the belly. That expansion rises up, those lower ribs press out, and then that allows the breath to come up into the chest to fill up the lungs, to come into the upper back.
That's good to know.
But
How important is constant posture on that?
super important, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the diaphragm is one of our key postural muscles, right?
Yeah.
So if our posture is very poor, then our diaphragm is not going to be able to function optimally.
Yes, I
So,
found that with running long distance outside and stuff,
mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I work on a computer, and my whole life I've been in school, and I found that like I was sitting like this all the time, or if I was on my
Oh yeah.
computer, like I might be sitting like this, or like this, like this,
Yeah.
something like that, and not like this. And I actually had to it was breathing while running that sparked my need to do it, but it translated into every aspect of my life, because I had to get one of those straps that pulls your shoulders back, and I had to wear it
Okay.
every single day for maybe 3 months, like 3 months
Wow.
of almost every single day wearing it, like at least while I was at home, just
Mhm.
so I could have that tautness. And now, like at least 90% of the time, I find myself like just able to sit up, and I think lower back workouts help with that as well, like a lot.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't have a weak lower back. Do some deadlifts.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool, man. So functional breathing. So what about those other types of breathings that you're talking about?
Yeah. So we're talking. We were just talking about bringing in a big breath,
Right.
and kind of feeling that expansion all the way up.
Yeah.
But it's also important for people to understand that we don't necessarily want to be big breathing all the time, like
You
taking in
don't?
huge breaths. No,
What?
right? Because
I thought
breathing,
you the goal was like big 6 second in, 6 second out, and that was like what you're supposed to do on a regular basis.
depending on what you're doing, right?
Oh
Because
man.
breathing is like eating, right?
Yeah.
We need to eat according to the metabolic demands of our body.
Yes, that makes sense.
Similarly, we need to breathe according to the metabolic demands of our body.
Okay.
So many people are over breathing based
Right.
on
I've heard
their
that a
their
couple
level of
times.
activity, right? So one of the first people to really understand that was his name was Konstantin Buteyko, and he was a
Konstantin
Russian
Buteyko.
doctor. Yeah,
Okay.
and in the 1950s, he started to observe that in his patients, and he went through a process of healing his own hypertension and breathing dysfunction.
What's hypertension?
Hypertension being high blood pressure.
Okay. Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So he started to experiment on people, and he actually did like really broad experiments, like on thousands of people, and
Oh
observed
man.
their breathing volumes, and came up with different reduced breathing techniques to work with different conditions like asthma and allergies and different conditions like that. And so Buteyko method, it started in Russia, was it's kind of been a lot in Europe and not so
Yeah.
much in North America.
Okay.
A fellow named Patrick McEwen. Have you heard of Patrick McEwen?
I have not. I'm afraid the only two breath people that I know are you and Wim Hof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Patrick McEwen is an Irish fellow
Okay.
and studied with Constantine,
Okay.
and has really taken his teachings and combined them with kind of some Vipassana meditation and some HRV
Oh.
breathing and stuff like that, and created oxygen advantage. But the same basic premise applies, that we need to breathe functionally, but most often for most people, breathing less or bringing more awareness to the volume,
Okay.
right? And I think it for me, it just keeps on coming back to awareness, right? Because what a lot of people will do is they'll hold their breath. And so then they'll hold their breath, and
Hold
then
tension.
there's sensors in their carotid arteries. When the CO2 rises to a certain level, those sensors kind of send a signal to the limbic system in the brain, sends the signal to our primal breathing centers. Then they start to overbreathe. So then they start to hyperventilate, right?
Oh,
And then
yeah.
it's just kind of like this back and forth kind of seesaw of dysregulation within the body. So it's really important to bring awareness to it. And people that are overbreathing, that are hyperventilating,
Are you saying that
can
like
bring
people
in.
are hyperventilating just throughout their normal day?
Oh yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay. So they're just sitting there going.
Like, right. So you've heard of the Tao Te Ching.
I have not.
Okay, so it's a book by a fellow named Lao Tzu,
Okay. Tao Te
and
Ching.
just one of these um, timeless books, right? So it's written, I believe it's been around since the early part of the first millennium
That's a
of
long time.
after AC,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever you want
Wow.
to call that.
Yeah.
So
Whatever it
it's been
is.
around for about 1500 years.
Oh man.
Um,
Okay.
and, and in that book and many other historical references from different cultures recognize that, and Lao Tzu says this in his book, The Perfect Person. He says perfect man. I'll expand that to say perfect person
Yeah.
breathes as if they are not breathing at all. And
That
so
makes sense.
if we actually look at the yogic pranayama, and we look at the different forms of pranayama, one of the most advanced forms of breathing is a form of breathing called Kabbalah pranayama.
For
And that's
those who don't
actually,
know, what's kanayama?
pranayama is
Pranayama.
basically means breath control, energy expansion.
Okay.
Is, it's challenging to say exactly what the Sanskrit
Yeah.
interpretation is, but something along those
Isn't
lines.
like now that you're saying that, that reminds me of something that I've heard before. Of like, is prane like that's your like life force, your energy, right?
Prana is life force, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
yeah,
Connected the dots there. Okay. So
yeah.
keep going.
And then depending on how you break down the second part of that word, ayama or yama, it kind of changes the meaning, but somewhere around energy control.
Interesting. I actually, I had somebody on. I think guest number 3, Chanel. She came on and she talked about yoga philosophy, and she told me that yoga philosophy behind all of the breath and the movement is called the 8 rungs of Ashtanga. And within
Yeah.
the first one, the first one is yama, and the second one are niyamas, which
Hmm.
and those are like different like, commandments to live by. I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was really cool, and so it all sounds
Yeah.
very similar, and it's all interrelated. Okay.
Oh yeah. It's super fascinating and
Yes.
super deep. It's like
Yeah.
you can get lost in there.
Oh yeah. Before I had that podcast with her, I didn't even know that existed. Like when she told me, like
Right.
it took me a second to understand that she was getting at that Ashtanga is like an overview word name for like a whole type of philosophy. I was like, no,
Right.
Ashtanga is this stretching routine that I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's freaking cool. It was really enlightening, and at the same time, it's cool um to find the similarities and the universal truths that's spoken within that that corresponds with Course of Miracles, or I don't or the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, or David Goggins, or all these people. They're all saying the same thing in different words, and it's really beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really cool.
yeah, man.
But yeah, so going back to what we're chatting about there, so Kabbalah pranayama
Yes.
is one of the most advanced forms of yogic breathing,
Okay.
and basically means coming into a state of breath suspension.
Okay.
So using all these different breathing exercises, the more common ones that you might find in a yoga class, and over years developing this ability to be in the middle where you're not holding in, You're not holding out. You're just in the middle and you're suspending your breath. And that's apparently the state of samadhi. So
Whoa. So
enlightenment.
is that like is that like an actual state, like a physical state that somebody can get themselves into, to where you're like
Absolutely.
you're literally, your lungs aren't moving?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. So,
What?
but, and that's,
That's amazing.
and so if you kind of look at where you're at, you've tried Wim Hof breathing.
Yes. Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. So, if you were to do that breathing practice and then observe where you're at the end of that practice, oftentimes people will notice that they come towards that state of suspension. So they're not really needing to breathe, because just because of what's happened with the levels of gases in the blood,
Right.
that they can breathe very, very little, very, very subtly
Huh.
after doing that technique. So it's bringing us into that state, kind of closer to that
I guess
state
it's
of
just making
oneness.
you
And
more efficient, just like anything else that you train.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So well, there was a bunch of other ones that you mentioned as well, right?
yeah, yeah. So there's this oxygen advantage and Buteyko breathing world,
Mm-hmm.
and I call that reduced breathing. Then there's the big breathing techniques. Wim Hof method is a big breathing technique.
Yeah.
And there's a whole um, area of breath work related to releasing trauma and releasing energetic patterns within the body.
What?
Um,
Are
and
those what you
so,
see when people are in those like deep state breath workshops where they look like they're having an exorcism?
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I
so
saw one of
that's,
those in a video the other day. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that looks
oh,
amazing."
it's pretty intense
Yeah.
and really incredibly transformative has been in my own life and so many people that I've worked with and observed through my trainings. And
Yeah, I think Aubrey Marcus said that through that training, he was able to deal with the trauma of his C-section birth,
right,
which is insane. That and
yes,
then when he said that, it was, and then he was unpacking that and talking about how trauma with C-section at birth can translate into like to a weak, or I guess high temperament later on in life.
absolutely. Actually, I was just talking about birth imprints the other day on I was doing a 7-day breathwork challenge,
Yeah,
and we're chatting about birth imprints on there. And pretty fascinating to, because really that's our first trauma, or one of them. Like people
yeah,
people can experience trauma in the womb,
yeah,
but
yeah. I
our
was actually
first
thinking,
external trauma.
right, yeah, I was thinking the other day, like white noise annoys me. And I was thinking, like,
Okay.
maybe that could be because I was C-sectioned and that's a traumatic event for me. I don't know. It's just a surface level, just like
Yeah.
guess. But I was wondering because you do research and it says white noise is supposed to be calming, relaxing, and remind you of the
Mm-hmm.
womb. And then I
Yeah,
was like, okay, reminds you of the womb. Well, maybe that wasn't a great experience for me.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to dissect these things and go down the rabbit holes and see where they go.
Oh boy, there's so many rabbit holes, and especially like this, the breath is a whole rabbit hole. Like yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
so what else can you do with your breath?
And well, we can increase performance,
Yeah,
so that's, one that you'd be thinking about, how do we manipulate the breath in order to improve delivery of oxygen to the cells, and that relates to oxygen advantage, but also different techniques as well, and being able to play around that with that health conditions, working with things like asthma, allergies, sleep issues, digestive issues,
digestive
and
issues.
well, because a lot of these things are related to nervous system dysregulation. So
Okay,
trauma being this big stressful event that we perceive as negative, and then that leading us into nervous system dysregulation because we can't process that event, right? It's just too much. But what that does is it leaves an energetic imprint within our nervous system,
right.
and we hold on to that, right? Until we come to a point in our lives where we feel safe to feel that experience and let it go, then we kind of pack that stuff around with us. And a lot of us just pack that stuff around for our whole lives and never let it go.
I really like the way that you word that you hold on to it until you're like, and it's probably not you consciously, it's probably your subconscious self feeling safe enough to feel that emotion. Or is it conscious? Or could it be either?
Mm, I think I think it's all comes down into the nervous system. The nervous system feels safe, right? The nervous system's constantly scanning and observing our
Yeah.
environment. And if it is an unconscious act, but
Okay.
we can bring the nervous system more towards safety through breath, right? Because breath
Oh,
is
okay.
one of two entries into our nervous system. That's why breath work is so powerful. So we've got breath and vision being the other one.
Okay.
So
I thought you were gonna
so
say
with
cold
breath,
therapy.
yeah, while
So,
while breath or cold is an entry into the nervous system through, again, through our breath, because we're
because
we're
you're
learning to
controlling your breath.
control our breath in stressful situations.
Okay. So then, how's the vision connected into that?
While vision, if you think about vision being like hyper focused on something, like fixated on something like that, that's a really intense state, and our nervous system picks up on that. So that's why, sitting here playing on our phone, like hyper focused on
Yeah.
this small object, that's stimulating to our nervous system. You think about going outside and watching a sunset, and you've got that big panoramic view, right? That's relaxing to our nervous system. So just through that expansion or focus, we can stimulate or relax the nervous system.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, and that's why
Hmm.
you do your breathwork sessions in like the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, that helps for sure. That'll transform anybody. Just taking people out into nature and spending some time with other good people and doing some transformative practices is can be pretty powerful.
Definitely, yeah. My brother, me and him were talking the other day about biohacking at its most raw self, and he was saying that at its base level, what it is trying to achieve the effects of camping in the wilderness for a week without actually doing so. Yeah, like whatever positive aspects and benefits that you get in life from camping in the wilderness and reconnecting with the earth and cutting yourself off from electricity, that's what you're trying to achieve with biohacking while still being submersed in regular life, which is it was an
Yeah.
interesting sentiment that I thought, and I was like, that's that's a good way to freaking look at it. um
Hmm.
like, what are we doing with the like grounding necklaces, and when you could just go stand outside. But I mean,
Yeah, we like to overthink things. Eh? That's the gift and the curse of the cortex, right?
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it would be cool, like if we could maybe eventually make enough biohacking gadgets to be able to be constantly walking around, and all of the receptors of our body are receiving ancestral like notes, but we're just walking through regular light, and like we're just reflecting all the blue light, EMF protection everywhere built into our skin. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, it would be cool if we could tune into our bodies to a degree that we could be controlling our body and creating the neurotransmitters, different chemicals within our body, and really tapping into that internal pharmacy in
Yeah,
order to do that without gadgets. That would be, and
that
to be
was
able to
that was a
protect
profound
ourselves from
thought.
whatever EMFs or whatever are coming.
Yeah.
You know, I think,
Do you believe that you could like if given enough time, infinite time and practice, you could meditate or breathe your way into a state of protecting yourself from EMF?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Okay,
If
that
you,
makes sense. And
if,
I think that goes with like I know Joe Rogan was talking about a guy on his show who meditated in a cave for 30 years, and he came out and he could change the temperature on the palm of his hand like from one half to the other.
Swami Rama.
Yeah, is that who that was?
Yeah,
Yeah, man, that guy's crazy. So I guess
yeah,
if that's possible, then anything's freaking possible with enough time and dedication.
Right. You know, you think at our core, at our essence, we're energy, right? So
Right.
we're an energetic field. And if we
Right.
can tap into that energetic field, then we can manipulate that in a way to repel or protect, you know,
Yeah.
kind of create a protective shield around ourselves. And yeah, I think we're, you know, my whole thing is just this belief that we're so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
Oh yeah, I think we're superhumans, like super powerful. I mean, um, I know I've heard. I can't remember where it came from, but I know I've heard like theories that maybe the Egyptians or like farther back than that, like experienced hundreds of different senses, and we just like lost them over time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
which would make
Well,
sense.
yeah, well, and even this idea that we get taught that we only have five senses. Well,
Right.
that's not true, right? Like
Yeah.
we're able to go inside our body, we're able to feel inside our body with the interoception, we're able to feel where our body is in space, proprioception, and you know, and some people believe that there's you know that even as we are now that we have something like 18 or 21 senses.
Yeah,
So
I mean that makes sense. Like, I mean, and we have intuition, and we have like some kind of actual legitimate connections like on the atomic level, I believe. You know, like what about when you think about somebody and they call you, or you run into somebody that you were thinking about, or you know, or you and your friend have the same idea in the same exact time. I mean, it's pretty
mm,
crazy. Or like that idea that when something gets invented in the world, within a few weeks somebody else within the world will invent the same thing as well. Or I don't know, like I find that there's a strange correlation between the messages that I output on a daily basis with the other people who are putting out similar messages. Like
mhm.
I put out like a post about responsibility the other day, and so did somebody else, and so did somebody else. So I was like, none of this was like correlated, and I just randomly and arbitrarily chose today. And I think that we are all like inextricably connected on a deeper fundamental level than we could possibly understand.
Collective field, man.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all a part of it. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all tapping into that collective mind and collective creativity where these ideas are coming from. And
Right, which
yeah,
I think is the
pretty
answer to probably save us all, is to wake up as many people and get them on that same wavelength of oneness and consciousness of love.
110%, man.
Hey, yes, I love it, man. Thank you. It's funny. I think you're the first person who freaking got that right, because most people, you know, in regular conversation, people say 100% all the time, and I'm always after 110%, and you got it. Thank you. 10 points, man.
Awesome.
That's cool. So, what I'm curious, what is your vision for the Breath Army? What do you see
Uh,
happening? Where do you see it going?
You know, it really right since the early stages of really seeing reaching people through an online presence. And while I love to do in-person workshops and work one-on-one with people, I've just kind of had visions of just this message spreading out through the internet or whatever means it may be.
Yeah.
So I see a lot more online courses, just a lot more online programming in general.
Yes.
And you know, and I think that, you know, it's obviously we're headed in that direction, and everything else going on in the world. I was really thankful when March rolled along that I was kind of already heading in that direction, and so I see a lot of that. But really, my whole mission is just to reach as many people as I can and have the greatest positive impact that I possibly can in the world. So I stay, I'm not like a super hyper focused visualizer,
Yeah.
as in like trying to manifest like these little details.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of, you know, try and put out these a little bit more broad of a message that, you know, that I'm here to be of service,
Yeah.
and that I hope that that can reach as many people as possible. And so whatever way that takes shape, then it's greater than I can possibly imagine, right? Like
Yeah.
my imagination is limited to my past experiences. And so I want bigger than that.
Yeah,
I
man.
just, I want to tap into the greatest possible vision that
Yeah,
that my life can have. So
that's really
I'm
cool.
open to what that looks like.
That's really cool. That resonates with me because I've been reading Joe Dispenza's book.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I saw that the other day, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I
yes,
saw that
that
on your
one.
story.
Breaking the
Yeah,
habit of being yourself.
it's dope.
Amazing, amazing.
It's
I'm
such
like,
good
oh
stuff.
my goodness, because like I'm very the woo woo stuff for me is very
Mhm.
new. Like a year ago, you would have told me like manifestation and like you have the power over the physical realm and you create like electromagnetic waves with your thoughts and your emotions. I would have been like, suck my dick, bro. Like, that's what are you talking about? Some Chinese woo woo nonsense that I know nothing about and that's probably not real. Like, where's the science and the facts? And like the deeper and deeper that I get into the science, the more and more it proves the woo woo. And it's really, really, really cool for me, and I really appreciate it when I hear Doctor Joe Dispenza like talk about these things, and he relates it. He relates like this infinite potentiality and this manifestation of the future with scientific studies of actual things like happening in mental and spiritual things affecting real world items and like for instance he was referencing a study that they did where they had people look at people's charts when they came into the hospital, and they
Mhm.
prayed for them and they prayed for their recovery, and they took one group that they got prayed for and one group that they didn't pray for, and then they looked at the records, the hospital records of those people who got prayed for and the people who didn't get prayed for, and the people who
Mhm.
got prayed for had a way less chance of dying and way more chance of recovering and getting out of there,
Yeah.
and they were doing it to the past. So, so like say, right. So say it's year 2010. They're looking at medical records from 1970, praying for the people in 1970, then looking at the results in 1971 and seeing that we actually have the ability to affect the past, future, and present with our thoughts and our emotions and things that we do. So if that's freaking
Yeah.
possible, like improvable by science, what else is, man? And
Yeah.
like talks about like quantum possibility. He broke down quantum mechanics for me in a way that I could actually understand it, just like piece by piece, little bit by little
Mhm.
bit, and he just kind of layers it on top of each other really slowly over the pages. And now, like, I probably couldn't describe it to you, but if I heard somebody talking about quantum mechanics, I could probably follow along with the conversation pretty well. It's
Mhm.
He's a beautiful master, man.
Yeah. No, it's incredible, and it's, kind of thinking about that infinite universe, and that, that we're potentially living in a universe in which everything that ever could occur is occurring in this moment,
Right.
right? And in every possible form, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I've had such incredible experiences in my own life, but I think one of the things that I really like about breath work in particular is that it allows me to access that quantum state, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
every day on a regular basis consistently.
Yeah.
So it allows me to go into that place, and I'm all about science. I love as much science as possible. The more, the more that's proven, the more that I can understand with my logical mind, the better. But
Yeah.
but I'm not scared of the woo either, and I'm not
Yeah.
scared of just having faith that that I've seen that things work in my own life, that I don't necessarily need to have a scientific explanation. And in my own life, by going into that place every day, it's, my life has changed in incredible ways, and just by focusing my thoughts, by focusing my intentions, it's been incredibly powerful. And I don't only just see it in my own life, I see it in people's lives all around me as well. So
That's really beautiful.
yeah.
Is there any? maybe specific example that you can bring to mind? I know it's really hard to do on the spot sometimes, but like a specific example of something that you've directly changed in your life over time by engaging in breath work, or maybe something that you manifested through these types of practices.
Absolutely. Um, I'm trying to think of a good example that's not going to
Yeah,
take up
man.
too much time.
No, man. We got time. We got I have 40 minutes left, so we're good.
Yeah. I'll use a simple one just to not get too in the weeds because, sometimes there's just too much backstory that
Yeah.
needs to come up. And but one in particular that I use is just around the work that I do, and perhaps working, say, with workshops and trying to fill those workshops with people,
Right.
and just visualizing, to just talk into rooms full of people, or maybe bigger rooms full of people, and then having those experiences happen on a consistent basis. And so, um, do you explain it with that? Do you explain it by saying, well, what about all the other work that's going on around it? Is
Hmm.
all that connected? It is, of course, but I really, I have seen those what I consider to be direct relationships,
Yeah.
where it's that direct focusing of my thoughts on a specific outcome and having that outcome. And then on the other hand, I've also really focused my thoughts and my energy on a certain outcome, and it hasn't
Yeah.
come out exactly the way I thought. I think, it's maybe not an exact science,
Well, it's not an
but
exact
I
science, and the universe is always working in mysterious ways. And maybe
100%.
what you were asking for and trying to manifest is either not right, not what was supposed to happen. Maybe the universe is trying to save you from, like, for instance, I lost my motorcycle key the other day, and somebody said to me, like, what if that was the universe saving you from getting in a car accident? Like, you have no
For
idea.
sure.
Yeah.
One,
Or
I think the reality is that we see such a narrow little band of what's going on in the big picture, right?
yeah,
So it's,
yeah,
like our logical mind really perceives so little, so we just can't have really any comprehension of how these different things are going to come about in our lives. So just kind of having faith that in those times that whatever's happening is perfect and exactly what needs to happen.
oh yeah, man. And like, even in like, and I think that that goes for like even the small moments in life too. For instance, my best friend, he has this meditation that he likes to do where he'll go sit for an hour or two and constantly repeat to himself, "You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're exactly where you're supposed to be." And he said that the other day, and like, I in my past, in my history, like, I have a pretty hot, like, have had a pretty hot temperament. Like, I can get frustrated. I have been able to get frustrated pretty easily. Or, like, if I'm in line and I'm waiting behind you and I feel like you're taking forever for no reason, then I will, like, let you know with, like, huffs and puffs. And I was just like one of those kind of, like, dicks, and I found myself in line beside somebody the other day, and they were taking forever, and I started, like, pacing, and I started getting frustrated, and then I went, "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is cool." Just like, it was just like a breath, a moment of realization, a grounding to the moment, and then a realization of what you just said, of how we only have this small, teeny tiny picture of what's going on, and we can't perceive all of the other things that are at work in the universe and around us in the world and with the other people around us. And we just have no idea why things are happening, but we do know that things are happening exactly as they're supposed to be happening, because, well, that's how they're happening.
Yeah. Well, and it's, in my own life, I've had this real shift in perception to really receiving life as a teaching, so almost like
Yeah.
life being a ceremony. And that, I've done a lot of work with psychedelics over the years, and just kind of seeing life in that same way, where it's like every event that unfolds is unfolding for my evolution and for my learning, so I can continually evolve to a higher and higher level of awareness.
Yeah.
And I think if we can shift our thinking and our perceptions to that, it, it's really incredible to watch it unfold and to see our own evolution.
Sorry, that was freaking blinding me. Yeah, it's crazy to watch it unfold, and I think that goes along with the mindset of like life is happening for you and not to you. And
Absolutely.
I don't know where I heard that. Probably from maybe the Four Agreements. I don't know. I feel like I got. There's so many golden nuggets in that book. Have you read that book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I read it quite a few years ago, so I'm not sure that I can remember the four agreements, but
No,
I
you're good.
remember that it was
I
really
couldn't pull it out
impactful.
of my butt. Yeah, I couldn't pull it out of my butt, either. And I read it 4 months ago, so you're good. But no, like, and it's cool. I think like one of the other things that I was talking about with Troy Casey, that he was saying it's nothing new under the sun. We're all just taking these universal truths that are there, that are already learned by humans, and just kind of distilling it with their own perceptions, and then regurgitating it. Oh, that's probably a bad word for this, but putting it back out there in your own words, in your own format. Like for instance, I think Paul Chek has like the 6 pillars, and the Certified Health Net has the 9 pillars, and I'm working on my 6 rules to live a good life, and then the Four Agreements is the Four Agreements. But really, we're all saying the same exact thing.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I think that really touches on what is authentic teaching, and I think, to me, the difference between an authentic teaching that's valuable to the world and regurgitation is taking somebody else's teaching and sharing it verbatim.
Right.
Whereas, to me, what I've really tried to do is take other teachings and filter those through my own experiences, through my own knowledge or whatever I've learned along the way, and then share that in a unique way. So the Breath Army pillars,
Yeah.
and and in that way we reach a certain demographic of people that need to hear it in those words because they resonate due to their own experiences.
Yes.
And so I think that, to me, that's the difference between those two.
Yeah, yeah, which is, and it's very important because we need to keep kind of reproducing these universal truths in different things, and then distilling them in different ways based upon our experiences, because there are so many people who just haven't woken up yet. And like
Absolutely.
yeah, and the goal is we need to wake them up. We need to fix the soil in 7 years. We need to fix all of these different things, and it's only going to be possible with a shifting human consciousness on a global scale. Um,
Yeah, well, and
yeah,
we need to wake ourselves up,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, that's it.
And become a shining example of what that looks like.
Right.
And
And that's
then
what
you
my
know and
that's the
then
whole thing I preach, man.
and then really we're just, we're teaching through that example, and just through the energy of how we are, that shifting and
Yeah.
and transforming as we navigate through our lives.
Yeah, man. And it's cool to see the actual real time in life impact of the different things that you're trying to do. Like for instance, how many people, or how does it feel when somebody comes up to you after a breathwork class or a course, or maybe later, a couple of days later, and they're like, "Wow, like that was amazing. That helped me so much. Like thank you so much, or you taught me, or you opened my eyes to this, or I was so ignorant to that before. I had no fucking clue that this was even a thing." Like how does that make you feel, and how does that push you forward?
I find it really humbling.
Yeah.
It's super humbling, and it's just incredibly motivating, because I think for myself I can get lost in the doing, and just, and like everybody, I have self-doubt, and wonder and question what I'm doing, and I've got a lot of tools to work with those different thoughts, but they're still there. And you know I kind of have this tagline, possessed by purpose.
Ooh,
And I really feel like,
that's good. You
you know
should
I
trademark that before it gets taken. Yeah,
but
man.
it's that's how I feel, is that my life essentially has been taken over by this purpose that I've given into. and and I kind of give my life to that, and allow myself to be of service and kind of be the voice for Breath Army,
Yeah, man.
whatever needs to be said. That's I'm just speaking whatever's coming to me, but I don't really feel like I'm generating it. I just kind of feel like I'm the conduit for it.
Yeah,
But
and I believe that that's absolutely positively true because I think you're such a conduit of it that when you said the words, it gave me the tingles.
awesome.
Yeah, man. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's real shit, man, and I think it's really cool. I was also curious. So since you're doing these, it's a little bit detour. Since you're doing these in person breathwork classes and everything, how are you filling them up? Like, what are you doing in terms of marketing and advertising? Because I know I see you advertise it on Instagram, but is that all you're doing?
Well, so the in-person ones,
Yeah.
usually I work with local, either yoga studios or gyms or
Okay.
whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and in order to just create like a broader community,
Mm-hmm.
and I could try and go into different places and try and do marketing and rent a place or whatever, but my preference is to connect with the local community and go in and build these long-term relationships with different studios and yeah, just watch those relationships evolve over time is really rewarding for me. So that's generally how I do the in-person ones, and then obviously there's some online marketing that goes alongside that.
Interesting.
But
So you're
yeah,
literally just walking into a studio and saying, "Hi, my name is Jeff. I do breath workshops. I love your thing. I did yoga. I love this thing. I'm doing these shops. Do you think we could work together? And do you think you could maybe help me promote this? Maybe put a flyer on your window, and then it's just kind of word of mouth
yeah,
from there."
yeah. Because really, like when I started with Breath Army and started with the way that I'm teaching breath work, it's my own authentic teaching. So it's
Yeah.
really I just started cold calling yoga studios and said,
Okay.
hey, my name's Jeff. I'm coming to Burn, Kelowna, Salmon Arm, Revelstoke, wherever, and I'm going to be there, and I'd love to do this workshop. And some of them answered back, some of them didn't, you know,
Yeah.
and I just started teaching and just sharing what I could and just
I love
evolving.
it, man. I love
And
that. I fucking love that. I think that's the a theme that I've been finding lately of to really live your passion, to find your passion, to do your thing. Like you don't have to um and like trying to find your passion and to do your own thing and to like be your own boss and not have to work for somebody else or do like the normal 9 to 5 job or anything else like that. If you have any of those kind of aspirations, then you don't even have to maybe necessarily shoot for one of the traditional lines of that working out for you, like a celebrity or a talk show host or any of these things. Like you can literally say, I like this, and I'm gonna do it until somebody pays me for it, and then you
yeah,
can figure out a way to make it happen. Like I haven't. Like that's the stage that I'm in right now. The stage that I'm in is I love this. I'm passionate about this, and it's time to start the grind. I don't think I'm anywhere near getting paid for it yet, but it's a cool journey to see where that leads. Yeah.
absolutely. And just kind of releasing attachment to the outcome and
Yeah.
attachment to to what are the things that our small self wants, and thinking, I hope I make a lot of money off this workshop or
Yeah.
whatever, X amount of dollars. It's just like, what if I just did this workshop, and what if 3 people only show up, and I just do the most kick-ass workshop that I can possibly do for those 3 people, because I know down the road that's going to be 300 people. So I'd better start practicing with 3 people, because 300 people scares the shit out of me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's the little
So
things. It's just building up and it's that
it's that,
practice like you play.
yeah, and it's that idea of just giving 110% in everything that we do, right? And
Yes, sir.
and just kind of giving ourselves into the process, and just having faith that we are in the right place, we're in the right time, we're doing exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
and yeah, just going with it.
Yeah, I really like that you touched on releasing yourself from the outcome, and I really resonate with that because I think this is the first thing that I've ever done in my life, like ever in any way, shape, or form, where I am not attached to the outcome. I have a history of like I haven't failed very much in my life because I prepared so much before I did things. Like I've done a lot of big things, like a lot of crazy things that other people haven't done, but it like I never failed on the way to getting there because I was so prepared and I knew the end of everything before I began. Like for instance, like I finished 3 years of college in 6 months. You know, like there's a beginning and there's an end and there's a thing that you got to do in the middle and there's an outcome and there's like some items that you check off and you start off on this journey and you can see the end of the tunnel. And I feel like that kind of scenario is what I've purposely made everything in my life because I felt uncomfortable starting into a tunnel without being able to see the end. And I think this is the first time that I've really been able to open up in life and start something without having any expectations or assumptions or ideas of what is to come. It's just simply moving forward, living in the moment, and doing your best.
Yeah, well, and that's like the most exciting journey we can take, right?
Yeah.
And we all, like most people, like they want some excitement in their lives, but a lot of us are scared to take that step into the unknown, like we want that certainty, we want that comfort, that kind of
Yeah.
that safety net, that to know that that safety net's there. And I don't, I think that there's something to be said for considering some of those things and not just throwing everything away. And but it's i
Oh
think
yeah.
I think just having faith, and just sometimes I use the analogy of just learning to kind of like walk in the dark, and it's kind of like you're on this path, you're walking in the woods and it's dark out, and it's kind of like learning to live life in that way is kind of like just like learning how to walk on this path at night, and you kind of put one foot down hesitantly and then you're like kind of like reaching out for your other foot, but eventually you can start, you're going faster and
Yeah.
faster and faster, and you've
Smack the
just got
wall
more and more
and you
confidence, and
walk
yeah, and
around
then you
it.
yeah. That for sure happens
Right.
too.
Yeah. Smack, bleed. All right, let's keep going, man. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
absolutely.
That's freaking
Yeah.
life for you if I ever did hear it.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool, man.
and that smack in the face, that's part of the journey too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
it's all part of like Gary V says, man, fall in love with the process, not the results. Which
totally.
oh man, it's a weird constant reminder because uh, like there's so much work. So like I haven't had a free second in my life in the past like probably 4 or 5 days, like not a second, because I have a regular job. I'm trying to edit, then I do this and I do that, and it's just like I found myself at one point I was just like, oh my god, like this is so frustrating. I was kind of like upset at what was happening, and I was like, well, first of all, man, you did this to yourself. Second of all, it was on purpose. And third of all, this is the process that this right here, what is happening that's frustrating you right now is the reward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's, just reminding ourselves too when we're in those points that we're this is what I want to do, like
Yeah.
more than anything in the world, right?
Hmm.
and,
And if it's
and it's
not, keep
easy to
working
have
hard until you are.
yeah, and it's easy to have those moments where, like I have those as well, where it's like I'm trying to answer all the emails and I'm trying to, get the posts out, and you're trying to do all the things, and it can
And your
feel
tire pops.
frustrating. And then it's like just like trying to remind myself, just take a breath.
Yeah.
Just remember, like you're on this incredible journey, just enjoy it. And I think I've really started to understand more deeply that the whole intrinsic reward system and the way that we can harness dopamine to motivate us and to push us forwards, and how important it
Oh
is
yeah.
to reward ourselves along the way and tell ourselves, good job, you just sent that email.
Oh
It's not
yeah.
about answering all the emails, it's about each and every one, right? And
Yeah.
all the little steps along the way, and just giving ourselves that little pat on the back instead of waiting for the end of the day to give ourselves a beer or something like that,
Yeah.
like this extrinsic reward. It's like, no, just like enjoy the journey, give yourself those little pats on the back, tell yourself you're doing a great job.
I
And,
like that you say that,
like,
man.
yeah, it's just like, creates that energy within us to push us forwards.
Yeah, it's so important, and that goes like with positive self-talk and keeping yourself going, because I mean, if you're putting yourself down, then I mean, you're not gonna go anywhere. So then and like to add on top of that, so if you maybe just have like that like surface level positive talk, and then it invites you to go do something, and then remind yourself like, do you physically, like, because I know I do, like I'll edit something, or I'll finish a podcast, or I'll do something, and I'll get up and I'm like, yes, like you did that, like good job, like out loud, physically, like that loud, like good job, bro, like I'm so proud of you. Or I'll go look at myself in the mirror and like, I am proud of you, you just did a great job, motherfucker. And like
Awesome.
it feels good, it feels really
Yeah.
good, it gets me pumped up, and like I'm ready to go. Okay, what's next? All right, jujitsu, all right, let's go choke some people, let's do it.
For sure, I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't choke a lot of people, but yeah,
I'm
I
new.
jump up
I'm
and
new.
down.
I just started. a couple weeks ago, man. It's exciting. It's exciting.
For
I
sure.
I played football for 10 years, so
Yeah.
like American football. So I got that anger and that attack and the war sensation, like
Okay.
my whole upbringing, and then I
Hmm.
quit, and it just kind of like went away. And I
Yeah.
think that probably, actually, I think I might be realizing this as I'm saying this out loud right now, that probably translated into some outward anger issues, and some problems that probably surfaced in some of my relationships with, like past exes, or even my brother or my best friend, of like I used to yell a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like just like scream at people. Or I remember one time, me and my friend took a taxi like all the way downtown, to go to a club, and we get to the club. It's a 30-minute drive. We pull out, and he's like, "Oh my god, I forgot my wallet." And the concert before this motherfucker forgot his ID. Okay, so this is twice in a row, and I'm losing my shit. I'm like kicking a fire hydrant in the middle of downtown, like what the fuck. And I look back at that now, like that was a couple of years ago, and I look back at that now, and like that's not me. That's not me at all. That's not who I am anymore. And I think that anger and the frustration, the resentment, and the just bottled up emotions, like that needs to come out somehow, whether it be through breath or meditation or hardcore physical activity or trying a new sport or any number of different things. Like it's got to come out somehow. And it's better to do it
Absolutely.
with a freaking healthy outlet.
Yeah. No, we need those outlets, and we need those fun things that we're excited to do,
Yeah.
right? And it's, like I got an e-bike earlier this year.
Oh,
I
nice.
love that thing,
How is it,
and
man?
it's, oh God, it's so rad,
Yeah. How fast does it
and
go?
it's like, well, it only goes 32. It's got
That's
this
a lot for
limiter
a
thing on it
bicycle,
that I got
man.
to take it off. So
32
I
kilometers?
32 kilometers, so that'd be
See, I
like
don't know. I have no
maybe
idea what that
20
is.
some miles.
Okay, but it's still fast.
Yeah, but you can take that thing off. So I got to get on that here.
Careful,
I've
man.
watched. I've been
Careful,
watching
man.
some YouTube videos.
Man, you're gonna make sure you wear some pads, because I don't know, when I'm on my because I drive a motorcycle everywhere. So like when I'm on it, it's pretty much like a constant thought in my head, like you could die right now, you could die right now, you could die right now. It's
Sure. I actually sold my motorbike and got my e-bike.
nice, nice. Do
Yeah,
you
it's
do you live close enough to everything you commute to for it to be worth it?
yeah, yeah. My life had kind of changed, and I'd started doing a lot more sedentary work.
Hmm.
Just sitting, working on the computer, and found that like I've got a car, and I just didn't really want another vehicle that I had to that I was riding.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
wanted
See, I don't even have
to
a car.
just I wanted something where I could get out and get some of that energy out, and it's just like it makes me feel like a little kid. It's like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go for a bike ride. And
Yeah,
it's like I don't
yeah,
even need to know where I'm gonna go.
yeah.
It's like just like heading out of the house, like you remember when you're like 6 years old and you just like go
Left the house.
outside,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
that's how I feel when I run, man. Like I like
Yeah,
jogging, so when I'm jogging, I go on a new route. It's like, wow, I'm a little kid again, man. You can just pretend to be
awesome.
like a little spy, a little ninja, you know.
Yeah, well, I think that's so good for our brain too. You
Yeah,
know, I don't know, like I have this personal belief that that's kind of why we get diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, is just from getting stuck in these loops and like doing the same thing over and over and over and over every day, like going
yeah,
back and forth to work exactly the same way and coming home and sitting in the same chair and having dinner for 50 years. Like,
yeah. I don't understand that. Yeah, like,
uh,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
the variety.
Yeah, like my dad is, I feel like he's getting to a point in his life where he's getting like he's just trying to like rack up all of these comfort points and set the house up and then set the retirement up and then get your church group together and get this friend group together. I'm comfortable. Let's go on autopilot and now for the rest of my life. And it's just like, interesting. Okay. I
Yeah.
don't know about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that comfort is killing us.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's
it's
what I've been realizing. Like I make it such a freaking point to try to make myself as uncomfortable as possible on a regular basis. Like just go out and do things. Like for instance, like I've accidentally become introverted over the past few years because I was doing online school, and I moved out of the state away from my friends, and so it's kind of like steps of isolation, and I'm trying to break out of that. And so I'm a very outgoing person, and I've always used to be like the center of attention in public areas, but then when you're isolated for a while and you come out of that, then you try to go back into that, and it's very daunting and it's very strange and it's very, very weird. And I've just been like throwing myself out there as much as possible, and it's crazy how fast things can come back to you and how fast you can accommodate to different situations in your life. Like I went out the other night and I was just like totally fine, like and I think it was meditation and breath work and crystals like helped as well, and intention and manifestation, and it
mm,
all comes together to create those new situations in life.
yeah, I was just talking earlier today with my girlfriend about intentions and intentions are something that I've used a lot over the course of my life and with different modalities. So psychedelics being one of them,
Hmm.
breath work being another one, even with yoga. But really, like just bringing an intention to every day, how
Yeah,
powerful that can be. Like just
yeah,
waking up in the morning before you get out of bed. What's your intention for the day? Like how
yes,
do you want the day to unfold?
yeah,
And then, the power and intentions in all these other modalities has come in returning to them when shit gets hard.
yeah,
And in that same way, as you go throughout the course of your day, and things are, you get kind of angry or, things aren't going your way, returning to your intention. Well, what was my intention for today? My intention was to have fun today. So
yeah,
what am I doing? Getting angry. Like I'm just
yeah.
going to go back to having fun.
Right,
Right.
right. Let's
Yeah.
skip the loop. Huh. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah,
Intentions are powerful.
I found for a little bit I was doing intentions in the morning, like writing down intentions along with my gratitude practice. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I I think I might have been using it incorrectly because I think I was kind of using it like it morphed into more of like a, because I was doing two intentions for every day, and it kind of morphed. I think it morphed from like a general intention to like a small to-do list, and then and then I kind of like fell behind on it, and then I was like, shit, man, like I'm just, and I was like enacting negative self-talk because I wasn't accomplishing my intentions that I set for myself for that day. So I was like,
Right.
I'm just gonna, at least for now, the physical act of writing down intentions at the beginning of the day, I'm gonna pause on. But I found that the act of like making my freaking bed in the morning, that is in like a symbolic intention for me. So like when I'm making my bed, this is me signaling to myself the intention of setting the tone for my day, of it being like put together. I'm gonna get my shit done. I'm gonna do the little
Mm.
victories. I'm gonna hold myself accountable for the things that I said I was gonna do. And it's just like a like that. Making the bed is like the first domino of the day getting flipped over of just like
Yeah.
these all of the different things that are going that you just need it to happen to be optimal.
Yeah. Becomes a ritual.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's powerful.
I love my morning ritual. I think actually like I'm coming up with this idea that I've had lately of because you know like all of this online shit, it's all distilling things into like little marketable items, and
Hmm.
so I think one that I'm working on right now is this is a not a firm title. I need to do some testing, but 20 minutes a day to change your whole life for the better. And it would be in the morning when you wake up before you start your day, because you know anybody can do 20 minutes. Like you can wake up 20
Hmm.
minutes early. So what I'm going to try to get people to do is 5 minutes of gratitude journaling. um, 5 minutes of gratitude journaling where you write down five different things that you're grateful for, and then 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation using Sam Harris's Waking Up app. And I
Okay.
think like those, I guess 10 and 10. So I guess those 20 minutes, or you could even make it a little bit easier for people and say 15 minutes to change your life. Do 5 minutes. And I
Sure.
think, like, I really think that those two combined things out of my day have the biggest impact on my life.
Hmm.
Like those 15 minutes, those small 15 tiny minutes, those small things, like I think it has the biggest impact on my life in a positive manner in terms of like the gratitude just sets me in a grateful mood for the day. Then I'm more
Hmm.
receptive to things as things are coming throughout the day, and things that would normally piss me off. I'm like, I'm so grateful for you to be a lesson to teach me temperament or temperance, right? And
Absolutely.
and then and then the mindfulness practice. I think that like the meditation is meditation, and that's just beautiful in itself, and over time compounds to different things. But I think
Hmm.
that the act of mindfulness in and of itself is a fucking superpower because I don't know about other people, but for me, things just kind of like went from brain to mouth. It's like swoop, and there is no mindfulness
No
filter.
filter.
Yeah, there is just like a thought mouth, thought mouth, thought mouth, or thought action, and now it's like thought think not so good, thought think action, right? And
Yeah.
it's that pause of being able to be mindful in the moment of the different things that are happening within your brain from a second to second basis, and being able to alter them before they're interpreted by other people in the world, to be so that you can give off the perception and the persona that you would like to, in a positive way.
Yeah. Moving from reactivity to responsiveness,
Yes.
responding in
Yeah.
as your higher self,
Yeah.
as a higher version of yourself, as opposed to this kind of primitive reactive being
Yeah. Definitely,
that's,
man.
kind of tied to all the encoding in our limbic system of what's safe and not safe and
Yeah, it's rewiring the limbic
whatever.
system is what it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which is interesting that we can
Yeah.
actually rewire our freaking brain like physically.
We're incredible beings.
Cool, man. So we're running up on our time here, and I have three questions for you that I ask everybody that comes on the show.
Oh
Um,
man. All
oh
right.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nothing too inquisitive. So my first one is, what is your definition of success?
I think my definition of success is to be at peace with myself.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
it. I love when people give me like super profound, short ass answers for that question. It's amazing. Thank you. 'Cause, you know, some people will give like super long analytical questions. Some people will give really long spiritual questions, and then every once in a while you get like a really nice, precise, like that's it,
Mhm.
and at the same time profound. So that's really cool. Being at peace with yourself. So the answer to the second question might be similar for you then. What is your definition of enlightenment?
My definition of enlightenment is to be aware.
Magnificent. Once more,
To
sir.
be aware, to be present, to
Yeah.
be in this moment entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard Paul Chek's rendition of this? He says, chasing enlightenment is like chasing the horizon. The closer that you get to it, the farther it gets away. Because if you ever got to it, then the work would be done.
I like that.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
I was like, man, yeah, I gotta keep that one in the mind bank so I can share that. Keep sharing that one. Okay, man.
Hmm.
So, final question for you then. What is the number one thing that somebody can do on a daily basis to help change the world for the better?
Become aware of themselves.
Excellent. I believe that too. Yeah, I mean, mine is self change and self work, and like
Yeah.
that's literally the whole message of everything that I'm pushing out there is change yourself, change the world.
Yeah. Be aware of what you're putting out into the world.
Yes, yes, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Whew, it's we talked about so many important things, man. Before we cut this off, do you have anything that you'd like to promote? You give us your Instagram handle, if you have a website, maybe some things that you got going on in the near future, all the above.
For sure. Yeah. We got a webinar coming up tomorrow night. Breathe into a new you.
Okay,
Be going over some simple breathing techniques, different things people can bring into their lives, ways to make breath work a consistent practice. And then we'll be talking about the breathwork blueprint in there. So the breathwork blueprint is my 6 week online course.
cool,
Next round starts on October 13th, so a week today.
nice.
So we'll be
And this
chatting
is
about
that, and
that.
they can find this on your Instagram at Breath
Yeah,
Army.
at Breath Army. So if they go into the link tree on Breath Army, there's a link to the webinar there. There's also a link to the blueprint if people are interested. So those are the two big things on my horizon that I'm dedicating most of my energy and time to right now.
Beautiful, man.
And
It sounds
yeah,
wonderful.
excited to get those out and to get another group of people into that and just watch the transformation in their lives.
Yes, hopefully I can have a little something to do with adding a couple people to that. That would be amazing.
Uh,
Um,
Thank you for having me on.
of course,
It's been a
man.
lot of fun chatting with
I,
you. It's
I really
been a good
enjoyed this.
conversation.
Yeah, especially finally meeting you as I've been interacting with you for a couple months on Instagram. I
Yeah,
definitely believe that we should continue this conversation. I think we should do this again at some point, because this is the beginning of this podcast, and it has a long future to go. And I think I'm finding some really cool people that I think would be good additions to like this podcast to be normal reoccurrences going on. And I think like you're an expert in breath, and I'm never going to be. So I would I would love for this to happen again so that we can keep talking about this and keep spreading the knowledge and the truth, man.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see where you go with the podcast and where everything that you're doing leads you. And yeah, I'd love to reconnect again in the future.
Excellent, man. Thank you so much. You have a good one.
Awesome.
Peace
Okay,
out,
have a
brother.
great day. See ya.